Hey, I'm Nick, and I'm here with Kurt from Hard Mode Gamers.
Hey, how are we doing?
Good. And today we're talking about Syberia 3. You got a chance to play.
Syberia 3, the long-awaited sequel to Syberia 1 and 2. Those are from 2002 and 2004. They announced this game in like 2010, and they just now got it out. Can you imagine waiting that long for a sequel?
I mean, if you're a dedicated fan of the series, definitely. I have not played it, so I couldn't necessarily give any kind of input, but...
What do you think is the longest you've ever waited for a sequel? Like, just off the top of your head.
I think the longest that I've waited for any sequel, for anything, I would say, is probably about 3 years. And then usually after that, I'm kind of like, I'll drop off.
Yeah, I mean, wow, 7 years. 7-ish years, I guess. So it's developed by Microids, and there has been a return of adventure games. You know, they're making a comeback, and that's... You talk to people, you make decisions, and, you know, you sort of take part in a story. Have you played a traditional adventure game, though?
I have not. So the Telltale game series I've played, like The Walking Dead, The Guardians of the Galaxy, things of that nature, but I've not played just a straight-up adventure game.
Oh, boy.
So what am I walking into if I were, since I'd be a newcomer, what would I be walking into when I come into this game?
Well, for starters, you'd be lost because this game relies pretty heavily on you having played the prior games to be interested in what's going on, but I suppose if you were just down with it, you could probably play this game. But what you gotta expect in these adventure games of old and new are that you're given problems, and for the most part, you have to figure out non-violent ways to solve these problems. Often doing things yourself and figuring things out on your own. No one's going to help you out with these problems. You know, when you run into a problem, it's just you. For starters, Syberia 3, a little bit later on, I got to this part where I was in this village with this ancient tribe of people, and they were stuck in a location. If I wanted to go back into the town, I was blocked because there was a guy there, a policeman, saying, you know, no one's allowed through here without a city pass. I didn't have that. So, what do? I don't have a city pass. I can't leave the tent. What would you do?
I would try to bribe the cop, but, you know, I don't know.
No, you can't do that. Would you try and outrun him?
It depends on how fast I am versus the cop.
He was pretty fat. He was a fat cop.
So I might be able to outrun him at that point.
But no, you gotta like figure out how to get a piece of paper for this. So he turns around, and first thing to me is like, okay, let's snoop through his office.
Yeah.
And you go through the office, and you find a stamping press, but there's no ink. And the stamp for that is missing, and you don't have the paper. Okay, so the game's still not going to tell you what to do, except for, well, you click on things, and you go, okay, what's this, what's that? And, you know, the main character, Kate Walker, will sort of talk in a way to the player and say, no, I can't do this, that doesn't work, and then you gotta look around. So, I go back into the tent, and I find a person who is a tourist there, and he gives me his sister's city pass, but it hasn't been stamped yet. How lucky is that? But we still gotta stamp it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have the paper. Now how am I gonna stamp it? I need to make a stamp. How do I make a stamp? So, I ruffled through someone else's stuff in the tent and found some candles. What am I going to do with these candles? Well, if I give them to the forge that was there, and I steal the imprint of the stamp from the office, I can take that to him, and he can make a forged stamp for me. So I have this forge guy make a stamp. Alright, now I have my stamp for the piece of paper that's also fake. But I still need ink, so the ink's dried up. So what I had to do is there was a sponge there for the ink, and I take the sponge and I go out onto the coast of the lake where there is, and there's a dead squid there in a pool of ink. So just mop up some dead squid ink, and there we are, I have my ink. Then I head back to that puzzle. You put the ink in place, you stamp it, and you have to figure out how to use these gizmos too. And that's also the challenge in these games, is you often encounter sort of like very old mechanical things. There's sort of a clock punk thing going on with these. Lots of cogs, lots of machinery, lots of very old-timey stuff, because it's all about these automatons and things like that. So you get a lot of these very uncommon things that no one's going to tell you how to use them. You got to figure it out. And that's how you just solve every problem. You get a problem and you solve it. Then you get another. And that's how these adventure games go.
Right.
Plot-wise, it was kind of dumb. But you look at all of them and go, well, all this is kind of dumb. There have been some insane puzzles. So yeah, now that you know how to play an adventure game, and spoilers for anyone who's going to play this game, I gave away the puzzle for you. Don't worry, there's more where that came from. Would you want to play this? Or would you play an old one?
I feel like I would want to start off with like an old game, right? And then kind of get the feel for it and go into this. But I also, part of me wants to go straight into this just because of the challenge of it. Yeah. And kind of like the self-leading of kind of going through the puzzles and through kind of the thinking process to figure out these solutions to things that aren't straightforward for you. Now, kind of going back to, obviously this is a third iteration in that series itself. Does this kind of pick off right where the second one left off? Does it include some of the same cast and characters?
Oh yeah, it picks up about a month after the last one. I would say it had been so long since I played the last two. I didn't play them when they originally came out. I played them later on, like 2009 maybe. Yeah. But it doesn't matter a whole lot because there are a lot of new characters introduced and some old ones that you saw in this one that you didn't see physically but were in the old one. Like there's a detective chasing after you for reasons, and that was one of the weirdest things of the old ones is you were like causing people trouble and you had this detective chasing after you, and the whole game went into him thinking, but why though? And then when this game comes around, I finally get it. And I'm like, wow, Kate Walker's a really disruptive person on the whole. Like, she wrecks shit. I remember that there were ancient memes for this one, because this was like 2002, 2004 level memes. So she had advice animal memes. Yeah. It was all about the ridiculous solutions. Like, you've blown up a statue to get past something at one point. You know, you wreck stuff. Right. Like, wow, no wonder they want to stop this. She sounds insane. Yes. Except when you're playing it as her and you realize she just really wants to help. That's her character. She's a character who wants to help. Right. But, yeah. Ongoing short version of the plot, you're helping this ancient tribe of people reach the mythical island of Syberia. You got there once yourself, but now you have to help them get there. And you just meet all these troubles along the way. There's a paramilitary government agency after you and this detective. And yeah, if you're down for some classical adventure gaming, it's alright. It's got a bit of issues. Moving from a point-and-click setting to a 3D game. The controls are a little bit wonky, for lack of a better word, but it's what works for that, and it's functional at best. This was a very small team. There are a few issues, but, I'm letting a lot of them slide. Right.
Now, what's some features that you would like to see included in the game, or stuff that you would like to see getting taken away based on kind of gameplay you've had?
Well, they did one thing, and it was I could have made this game easier on myself. Right. The game has two modes, Voyage mode and Adventure mode. Voyage is a way that would make the game play out a lot more like Telltale. They show you what's clickable. Right. They show you the whole X will remember that kind of dialogue things. And they also, give you a lot more hints as to what you're doing. You can view your objectives, because back in the olden days, you can't even view your objectives. So I went for Adventure mode, though, where that removes most of that. You don't see what's clickable. You just got to walk around and see what you can actually do to fix this. Okay. And it was good that they made it easier for newcomers who would kind of want to play it in that sort of Telltale way. But you're still going to run into you're still going to run into difficulties because you're still going to have to solve these puzzles,
Right.
and these are not easy puzzles. The only other game that came out recently like that was another Kickstarted game called Dreamfall Chapters. It's
Okay.
the third sequel to an old adventure game.
Okay.
And that one also kept a lot more of its adventure game elements while still adapting that new style. So if a lot of adventure games can come back and adapt this new style while keeping that identity of giving you puzzles that are tough to solve and sometimes admittedly a bit ridiculous,
Right.
I think the adventure genre can regrow. I mean, Telltale certainly paved the way, and now we
Right.
have these games following suit, mostly via Kickstarter. I mean,
Right.
Dreamfall Chapters was out on PC for a while.
Right.
It's coming to Xbox One and PS4 in May.
Oh wow.
Thank you very much for the pass.
So the one thing that kind of sticks out to me, obviously, there's a lot of very simple, kind of isolated civilization aspects in terms of the kind of the way you go and solve problems. Is there a point in the game where you rely more so on very modern technology, so essentially, more so robotics and things like that to kind of get through a lot of these quests, or are you relying more so on kind of older methods to resolve your issues?
This game, I guess, based on what time it came out, you wouldn't have a lot of modern technologies. Like, there certainly aren't any cell phones
Right.
around in this world.
Right.
This game, you really gotta rely on your wits. It's done in such a way that it feels like a fictitious world, even, because you go through a series of made-up Germanic towns and
Right.
other sorts of places like that. All these cities are made up. They're all old-timey looking. Technology would only be a little bit forward, if anything.
Right.
And it's mostly just relying on your wits for every single thing you encounter, because it's all, clockwork, gearwork kind of
Right.
puzzles.
Now, in terms of character relations, obviously to the main character, do you find that there's characters that are continuously coming up in the story, like they're always present, or are you getting a lot of like minor characters that only are there for that part of the plot line?
In the original, you accompanied an old guy across a lot of land. Right now, you are in. Let's think. So Syberia 3 sees the return of like the tribe's leader, and you talk to her a lot. And
Right.
then there's a new character. You talk to him, and he comes along with you on this adventure. There was a character named Oscar. He was an automaton who was your friend in the old games.
Right.
And as far as I know, he may make an appearance in that. I haven't gotten that far yet because I'm on my own on this one. On these old adventure games, if you didn't know what to do, you had to look up a guide. Well, this game just came out. That's not happening. So I gotta suck it up and figure it out, or dig through like video after video on YouTube of people pretending they have walkthrough videos when instead it's actually just a gameplay video that they just called it a walkthrough.
Yep.
Yeah. All in all, if you want to see what old-timey adventure games are like, this is a very good callback to that. Alright, so yeah, if that's what you want to check out Syberia 3. And if not, play something else.
This has been Nick with Hard Mode Gamers.
And I'm Kurt from Hard Mode Gamers, and for more videos, subscribe to the channel.
See you guys.
See ya.